I was dead. My heart had stopped, my body was cold, and I was gone. But what I saw on the other side shattered everything I believed. My whole life, I was convinced that heaven was for my people alone, white people. I lived by it. I preached it, and I was ready to die with that belief. But when I crossed over, I saw something that left me trembling in fear. And now, I must tell you the truth. My name is John. I grew up believing in a simple but dangerous idea that only people like me, white people, were chosen for heaven. I was taught that others didn't belong, that they were lesser, that they would never be welcomed by God. I carried this belief proudly, defending it, spreading it, living by it. And when my time came, when death knocked on my door, I expected to walk into heaven with open arms waiting for me. But I was wrong. And what I saw, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Before I take you into the terrifying depths of what I witnessed, take a second to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because this story is not just mine. It's a warning. Now, let me take you to the moment my soul left this world. It was an ordinary evening. I had finished dinner, sat in my chair, and felt a sudden, crushing pain in my chest. It was like a massive weight pressing down on me. I clutched my heart, gasping, but the pain only grew worse. My vision blurred, my breathing slowed, my body went numb, and then silence. I was gone, but I was still there. At first, I didn't understand. I was standing in the same room, but everything felt wrong, lighter, hazy. Then I saw myself, my lifeless body slumped in a chair, my wife screaming, calling for help. I tried to speak, to move, but my voice made no sound. My hands passed through the air like mist. I wasn't my body anymore. That's when I felt it. Something behind me, watching, waiting. Before I could turn, an unseen force yanked me backward. I was no longer in my home. I was falling. Darkness swallowed me. I fell through a vast, endless void. No wind, no light, just an eerie, suffocating silence. Then the whispers started. At first, they were faint, distant, but they grew louder, surrounding me, echoing in my ears. I tried to scream, but the sound was stolen from my throat. Figures moved in the shadows, twisted, shapeless things, watching, reaching, crawling toward me. Panic gripped me. I kicked, struggled, fought to escape the darkness. Then, far above, I saw it, a golden light. Hope surged through me. I pushed toward it, fighting to pull the shadows. And just like that, I was standing before the gates of heaven. They were enormous, towering, radiant, everything I had ever imagined. I fell to my knees, tears in my eyes. I made it. I knew it. But the gates did not open. Instead, a voice spoke, deep, powerful, unlike anything I had ever heard. Who are you? I swallowed hard. I am John, a faithful believer, a righteous man. Silence. Then the voice spoke again. And who do you believe belongs here? I straightened, confidence returning. Only those like me, the chosen, my people. The ground beneath me trembled. Then the gates changed. I looked beyond them, expecting to see a paradise filled with my people. But what I saw instead made my stomach drop. There were people inside, glowing, radiant souls filled with peace and joy. But they were not just my people. They were black, brown, Asian, indigenous, every race, every nation. They stood together, hand in hand, laughing, embracing. And I was outside. No, this isn't right. My voice cracked with panic. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Then the voice thundered again. You have judged where you had no right. You have divided where I united. You have condemned where I offered grace. I fell backward, shaking my head. But I was taught. You were taught wrong. The weight of those words crushed me. I had lived my entire life believing in a lie. I had spent my years excluding, rejecting, hating. And now, as I stood before heaven, I was unworthy. I opened my mouth to beg, to plead, but the gates disappeared. The light faded, and I was falling again, downward, faster, faster. The whispers returned, but this time they were screams. Then I saw them, figures in the darkness, people I had once known, people who believed what I believed. They were trapped, burning, eyes wide with regret. One of them reached for me, his voice hollow. Warn them, his face twisted in pain. Tell them before it's too late. I thrashed against the force pulling me down. But how? How do I go back? His eyes locked onto mine. Wake up. And then, everything went black. I gasped, sucking in air like a drowning man. I was back, alive, my wife sobbing over me. But I wasn't the same. I had seen the truth, and now I had to tell the world. I had returned, but I wasn't the same. The world around me felt different. I could see the familiar walls of my home, feel the weight of my body again, hear my wife's frantic sobs. But inside I was shattered. I had died. I had seen the gates of heaven, and I had been denied. Everything I had ever believed about eternity, about salvation, about who belonged in paradise, had been a lie, and now I had to live with the truth. But what was I supposed to do with it? John. My wife's voice was shaking. Oh my God, John, you were gone. I thought you were dead. I looked into her terrified eyes, struggling to make sense of everything. My chest ached. My body felt heavy. My skin was cold. I had died. And yet I was here. I forced myself to sit up, still gasping. My mind was racing, my heart pounding. How long? My voice barely came out. She wiped tears from her face. You weren't breathing for almost 10 minutes. The ambulance is coming. 10 minutes. For 10 whole minutes, I had been dead. And in those 10 minutes, I had seen something that would haunt me forever. My wife gripped my shoulders. John, what happened? I opened my mouth to speak, but how could I explain it? How could I tell her that everything we had believed, everything we had built our lives around, was wrong? She wouldn't understand. Would she? The paramedics arrived, rushing into the house, checking my pulse, asking questions. But their voices were muffled, distant. I wasn't listening, because in my mind, I was still falling, still hearing the screams, still seeing the souls burning in the darkness, still remembering the voice that had condemned me. You were taught wrong. The paramedics strapped me to a stretcher, speaking in rushed tones, but I barely noticed. My mind kept replaying the image of heaven, so close, yet so far. The faces of people I had judged, smiling inside paradise while I had been cast out. The truth was unbearable. I had been so certain. I had lived with confidence, with pride, with superiority. And now, I knew I had been nothing but a fool. As they loaded me into the ambulance, my wife held my hand. John, please, tell me what happened. I turned to her, my throat dry, my soul heavy. And finally I whispered, I was wrong. The hospital room was silent. Machines beeped softly around me. My wife sat nearby, eyes swollen from crying. I stared at the ceiling, my mind still trapped in the horrors I had seen. The burning souls, the terrible voice, the judgment I had faced. I had been given a second chance. But why? I wasn't sure how long I lay there, lost in thought, before the door opened. A doctor walked in, checking his clipboard. Well, Mr. Reynolds, it's a miracle you're alive. Your heart stopped completely. Most people don't come back from that. A miracle. I almost laughed. I had been saved. But I wasn't sure if it was a blessing or a curse. The doctor looked at me. Your body seems stable, but your mind, you look like you've seen a ghost. I took a slow breath. I've seen worse. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in that place. The darkness, the screams, the faces of those who had believed the same lie I had. Their hollow eyes, their desperate voices. Warn them. The words echoed in my mind. Warn them. But how? How was I supposed to undo a lifetime of hate, of arrogance, of certainty? I had spent years spreading a message that was false. How could I go back now and admit I had been wrong? Would anyone even listen? Would they believe me? Or would they call me a traitor? I turned to my wife, watching her sleep beside me. She still didn't know the truth. I hadn't told her, because once I did, there would be no going back. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. Morning came. I sat up in bed, staring at my hands. They felt different, like I didn't belong in this world anymore. I had touched death, and death had touched me. My wife brought me a cup of coffee, sitting beside me. "John," she said softly, "please, tell me what happened." I hesitated. My chest tightened. Then I sighed, and I told her everything. At first, she listened quietly, her face unreadable. But as I described heaven, the gates, the people inside, the terrible words that had been spoken to me, I saw her expression change. She looked away, her hands trembling. "John, you're saying..." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "We were wrong." I swallowed hard. "Yes." She stared at me. "But we were taught." I shook my head. "It doesn't matter what we were taught. I saw it, and now I know the truth." Silence filled the room. Tears welled in her eyes. "But if that's true, then what does that mean for us?" I closed my eyes. "It means we have to change." It took time for my wife to accept it, and I knew it would take even longer for others. How do you convince people that their entire way of thinking is wrong? How do you undo years, decades of lies? It felt impossible, but I had no choice. Because if I stayed silent, if I let fear keep me from speaking, then I would be just as guilty as before. The souls in the darkness haunted me. Their screams rang in my ears. Warn them. I had been given a second chance for a reason, and I couldn't waste it. I turned to my wife, my voice steady for the first time since I had returned. "We need to tell people. We need to make them understand." She nodded slowly, fear still in her eyes, but something else too, hope. And with that, we took the first step toward redemption. I had seen the truth. I had been cast out from heaven's gates. I had been warned. Now I had a choice. Stay silent and let others fall into the same trap I had, or speak the truth and face the consequences. Because I knew what was coming. The moment I opened my mouth, I would lose friends. I would be mocked, rejected, even hated. But I had no choice, because the screams of the law still echoed in my head. Warn them. And if I didn't, then their fate would be mine. The first time I tried to tell someone, I failed. It was a Sunday morning. I had been back for a week, and I still hadn't gone to church. I couldn't, not after what I had seen. But I knew I had to face them eventually. So I went. I walked through those church doors, my heart pounding, knowing I would never see this place the same way again. I took my usual seat near the front. People greeted me with smiles, pats on the back. "We prayed for you, John. You're a miracle." I nodded, forcing a smile. But inside I was drowning, because they didn't know. They didn't know what was coming. The sermon started. The pastor, a man I had followed for years, stood at the pulpit and preached the same message I had once believed. The same lie. How we were chosen. How we were special. How others would never enter heaven. And I couldn't take it. I stood up. People turned to look at me. I stepped into the aisle, my legs shaking. My throat was dry, but I knew I had to speak. "Pastor," I said, my voice trembling, "I need to say something." The room fell silent. Hundreds of eyes locked onto me. "Sit down, John," the pastor said with a forced chuckle. "You've been through a lot." "No," I interrupted. My hands were shaking. My chest was tight. But I couldn't stop. I have to say this. Because I saw what happens when we die. And we are wrong. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The pastor's expression darkened. "John, this is not the time." "There is no time." I shouted. "I died. I stood before the gates. And I was sent away." Gasps filled the room. My wife's hands were clasped together, her knuckles white. I swallowed hard. Heaven isn't just for us. It never was. I saw people of every race, every nation, and they were inside while I was outside. A man near the back scoffed. "John, are you saying we're not the chosen ones?" I met his eyes. "I'm saying we were lied to." Chaos erupted, people shouting. some in anger, some in fear. The pastor slammed his hand on the pulpit. That's enough. But I wasn't done. If we keep believing this, I said, if we keep spreading this lie, we are damning ourselves. I saw them, the ones who believed this until the end. They were in the darkness. They were burning. A woman in the front row gasped. Others whispered among themselves. The pastor's face was red with fury. You need to stop. But I couldn't, because the voice was still in my head. Warn them. So I looked at the crowd and spoke the words that seal my fate. If we don't change, we will burn. I was thrown out of the church, physically removed. Men I had known for years, men I had prayed with, grabbed my arms and dragged me to the door. I didn't fight them, because I knew this would happen. As they pushed me outside, the pastor's voice rang in my ears. Do not come back, John. You are lost. The door slammed shut. I stood there, staring at them, my heart pounding. I had lost everything. My friends, my place in the church, my reputation. But deep inside, I felt something new, something I had never felt before. Freedom, because for the first time in my life, I was telling the truth. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. Word spread fast. People I had once called brothers and sisters turned their backs on me. Some said I had lost my mind. Some said I was possessed. Others said I was a liar, a traitor. Even family members cut me off. I was alone, but I wasn't afraid, because I had seen what awaited those who refused to change. And I knew what I had to do, so I did the only thing I could. I kept speaking. I started small, talking to my wife, then to a few trusted friends. Some listened, some walked away, but I didn't stop. I wrote everything down, every detail of what I had seen, every word that had been spoken to me. Then I went online. I made a video. I spoke the truth. I told the world what I had seen. The response was immediate. Some people attacked me, calling me a fraud, but others whispered. I've had dreams like this. I felt something wasn't right. And then something amazing happened. People started to change. They began questioning what they had been taught. They started to see beyond the walls they had built. It wasn't everyone. It never would be. But for the first time, the lie was cracking. And I knew I had done what I was meant to do. It's been years now since I died and came back. Years of struggle, years of rejection. But I don't regret a thing, because I know what's waiting beyond this life. And I know that heaven is not reserved for one race, one group, one kind of people. It never was. I was given a second chance, and I used it to warn you. But now you have a choice. Will you listen, or will you wait until it's too late? Because I promise you this, the darkness is real. The burning is real. And if you don't let go of the lies, you will see it for yourself. And when that moment comes, there will be no second chances. If you made it this far, you have a choice. Will you listen? Will you change? Or will you wait until it's too late? Subscribe, share this message, and open your heart to the truth, because eternity is waiting.